to get started momentarily. And if you're just joining us, if you could please mute your mic, that would be appreciated. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jonathan Clark, and I am the Youth Services Consultant with the Vermont Department of Libraries. And I also have Lily Talbert with me from the department today, helping out. And we want to welcome you to the Summer Reading 2024 information session. We're going to be reviewing a lot of resources and hearing from a lot of partners about fantastic resources today. So we're excited that you are joining us, and we will be sharing out resources, links shared, and the recording is also will be available next week. We'll share all of that out. So very quickly, as mentioned, just some housekeeping stuff. If you will, please just mute your mics for now. You can have your cameras on, and then for each presenter, there will be an opportunity to ask some questions. So you can use the raise hand function at the top, and we can call on you. You can put your question in the chat, or at that time you can turn your mic on and ask a question as well when we're after each presenter. Oh, went one too far. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry about that. Lily, are you still? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. The agenda slide did not end up in there, so that's okay. It was shared out with all of you beforehand. So I'm going to just be doing a quick overview of summer reading. I'm talking about some of the resources that are available every year through Department of Libraries. And then we are going to hear from Don Krause with CSLP, and then we're going to be hearing about the Smokey Bear Reading Challenge, and we're going to be hearing about summer meal programs, and then we're going to be hearing a little bit about Beanstack, and an overview of resources at the Able Library and National Library Service. And then there'll be a little bit of time at the end just for you to ask questions about the resources available and to share some resources with each other. And that is what the day is going to look like. So I wanted to just talk very quickly just about summer reading. Summer reading is something that happens every year for people who have been in libraries for a while. It often can feel there's an excitement around summer reading, and there's also can be a little bit of it can feel like it's something that is like can be a little tiring sometimes. If you've been in libraries for a long time, it's constantly happening. But it's a really exciting thing, and there are a lot of resources available. So the Department of Library sponsors the summer reading program for all libraries every summer. And the summer reading program at its heart encourages a love of reading, introduces children and teens to books and authors, and expand leisure and reading choices, and works to prevent the summer slide and loss of reading skills during summer months, and also to connect, to bring people into the library. Of course, is a huge part of summer reading. And one thing I really want to emphasize is that in always at every library, summer reading looks a little different. And in Vermont, that's even more true. And I think that is fantastic because you know your community is the best. And so you should be doing what works best for you at your library and your community for your staff, especially knowing that some libraries are very small, one-person staff, limited hours. And sometimes the summer reading program may be doing programs that you do throughout the year during the summer. And if that's what your summer programming is, that's okay. And if there's added things that programming that you're doing, if you're using the summer reading theme, which we're going to be talking about in a minute when we talk about CSLP, but those are and the summer grant, which we'll talk about at the end, which is through the Department of Libraries, some money that's available to support summer programming, and we hope you take advantage of those things. And all of the resources that we're going to be talking today. But I really want to emphasize that those are available to you to use in the way that works for you. And you don't have to, there's nothing prescriptive. There's nothing we're not going to tell you this is exactly what summer reading should look like at your library. That is, best what that is going to look like. And of course, when you're sharing when you're able to share ideas with each other and to share all your fantastic ideas, that's also a fantastic resource to be able to hear what other folks are doing. So that's what I want to say up front, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of those things at the end of our presentation today. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce Don Krause, the Executive Director of CSLP, to talk about the summer theme this year and some of the fantastic resources that are available through CSLP.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Let me get my PowerPoint rolling here. Hopefully, I don't use Teams very much here, but it seems pretty easy.
We'll get there.
Yeah. It just has to be launched. It just wants to be launched. Okay.
That's working on it.
It is, I hope. Window. There we go. We got it. Okay, are y'all seeing that okay?
Yes.
Okay, and is my audio okay?
Yep, sounds great.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for inviting me to be here today to talk about CSLP, the Collaborative Summer Library Program. I know many of you have probably used our materials, and like Jonathan said, some years maybe you used us, some years maybe you didn't. But that's the beauty of summer reading. It really is a very flexible thing and something that you can customize in your libraries based on your community needs. At CSLP, we sleep, we eat, we read, we live summer reading all year long. So of course, we're always excited about it, but I know, as Jonathan said, it can be a little bit daunting. And so I hope today that some of these resources will spark your interest and maybe be some shortcuts for you. But we do have an extremely rich resource in our programming manual for you every year. There's just so much in it. And You know, when we think about summer reading, it is the largest concerted marketing effort and educational effort that public libraries do together every year. It's our thing in summer, and I think that's a really beautiful thing for the country, and just for public libraries to be able to put this out every year for kids to support reading is really a very special thing that we're involved in. So I'm so happy to be here to talk to you about this. So what is CSLP? Just really briefly, we are a nonprofit formed back in 1987. We have a 36-year history of providing summer reading collaboratively, meaning we all get together, and most of us are volunteers except for 2.5 staff that we have behind the scenes. We're all getting together and we're sharing and creating resources so that we're not all each reinventing the wheel. So it really is truly rooted in the idea of libraries sharing with their communities. And so I think it really has grown, started out focusing on children, but really has grown into teens and early literacy and adults. And if those are, you know, available to you in your community, if you have the resources to serve those populations as well, then great. We have resources for you. We are fueled and shaped by our volunteers, and currently we are in about 40 member states and some island nations. And in a nutshell, we're a group of people trying to make summer programming easier for practitioners and more meaningful for communities. So some of our past artwork and some of our wonderful volunteers, which we wouldn't be here without. I want to talk a little bit more about professional development before we move on into Adventure Begins at your library specifically. CSLP, one of our things really is to provide some professional development for you. We do have our annual summer symposium that's held in December. It's an overview of the upcoming theme and artwork for the summer, and manual highlights are in there. We always have really great guest speakers that align with our theme, and then it's really volunteer planned, and it's made to kind of hype you up mid-year, get you planning into the planning mode for it. So we also have an inclusion committee, and we have a webinar with those folks every year in fall. This year it was a really great webinar with Dr. Ruth Wilson, who wrote the book Naturally Inclusive. And I know Vermont is a big outdoor state, and so this is all about how you need to think about including all kinds of people with all kinds of abilities in your programming, and maybe not doing separate programming for those folks, but including them in what you're doing and making sure that it's a really rich experience for everyone. And even if they have varying abilities, backgrounds, all of that. So it really is a good resource, and only an hour long. So I encourage you, I do have the links to these here. I encourage you to go to our website, and you can view these when you have time. Obviously, CSLP produces merchandise for every year based on our theme. And so our shop.cslpreads.org is always open for you. You do not need a special login or password or anything like that. Vermont is a member state. You're able to go in here and shop whatever you need to. So just be aware that that is always available to you. Our programming manual is one of our big mainstays. This year it has 261 pages and 12 chapters, 80 pages of standalone printables, high quality artwork by professional illustrators and graphic designers. This year our artist, our children's illustrator is Juana Martinez Neal, and then our graphic designer is Rob Donnelly. So Juana did the early literacy and children's artwork, and then Rob tried to align that with her, and he did the teen and adult materials. So you'll see a little bit of a difference, but a lot of really dynamic illustrations and graphics this year. We have slogans in various colors, black and white clip art, individual images that are extracted from our poster. So if you wanted to use a cute little character, usually you can find it. And these are really images designed for marketing to each age group. So always kind of divided by age group. PowerPoint files if you need to do a presentation at your school. It's only $15.95 for online access, and your state has purchased access for all of the accredited public libraries in your state, which is really wonderful. You don't have to worry about it at all. And then ask Jonathan about that if you need access to that still with the password. You can get to our manual here on our website. It's under manual downloads. It's the first link that's listed as adventure. And this year we used to have all of our past programming in together with our current programming, but because there are so many resources in here, we decided to separate that out. So if you want to look at past programs, Oceans of Possibility, that kind of thing, you can always go under manual downloads and look at the summer program archive. And I think now there are 4 or 5 years of content there as well. So if you need more ideas, then you can always go there. And that's available to you year round as well. So you can go in there and use the imagery and the artwork and the programs in other ways beyond summer. This is our online programming manual. Once you get in there, you'll see over on the left-hand side, there's manual, which is all of the elements that are within the manual. And then there's the theme, art, media, miscellaneous tab. That tab will get you to the artwork, and the manual tab gets you to the meat of the manual. And you'll see in the middle, all of the PDFs show up there. So everything really is divided by PDF. We try to slice and dice this as much as we possibly can for you. Updates and corrections to any of the materials are over on the right-hand side. So 3 things were updated already this year with corrections. We have some outdoor programming resources there that came from our summer symposium, and libraries in Michigan that do 1,000 hours outdoors type of programming. Good materials there if you're thinking of doing a lot of outdoor programming this summer. And then I'll go over some Canva templates a little bit later. Oh, no, I'll do it right now, actually. We did introduce Canva templates this year just as an effort to get more customization on some imagery for your library and make it easier for you to make flyers and that type of thing. So I'm trying this out, and I've had mixed success with this. The templates in Canva are, there's a little bit of a learning curve that goes along with them. And so we're going to continue to plow through and try to make these useful to you. So if you have any suggestions for Canva templates you'd like to see in the future, please drop me a line and let me know. So here we have a vinyl banner. If you didn't want to buy the one that had the children's artwork featured in our store, then you can certainly get one of your own and customize it. And then we had a request for some Facebook event graphics, because we do not have those. We have some Facebook banners in our manual, but we didn't have event specific ones. So tried to help out there. You are going to see more downloadable, customizable files coming in 2025. Here's an example of the children's bookmark in Spanish this year. And you'll see that this is going to be a template where you can basically insert your library logo and whatever information you want about your library at the bottom. So kind of the best of both worlds. I feel like you get the marketing and the artwork and the slogan, but then you also get to put your fingerprint on it, which I think is important. And so these will be downloadable files for a nominal fee. We're not going to be charging a lot of money for these, but we will be charging a fee. We aren't quite there yet with that, but if you have suggestions, again, I'm all ears. Our artwork, there's a lot of artwork in our manual, and once you're under theme, art, media, miscellaneous, you go to artwork and posters, and then the center is going to once again populate with all of our PDFs and graphics. So our children's manual graphics are usually the most popular. That is the largest market that we're trying to reach, children. And so once you click on that, you can then see all the available resources that are in that file. So these are all the different graphics that we've produced around the children's program this year. These are available for download, and then you can take these and put them into, whatever program you're using to create your marketing materials. Flyers they can be imported into Canva, all of that. So it's great to have all that available. It's a very rich resource in there. And then our manual, obviously, if you haven't been in there recently, it may have changed in format a little bit. We've tried to simplify it. You can go under manual and look at our full manual. You can look at it by age group, by chapter, or by material type. So material type are book lists, the programs themselves, a school outreach toolkit, Spanish and bilingual, standalone printables, storytime themes. So we've tried to really break out some of those major pieces of the manual that might interest you. So decoration and display, I know that's always a big one. So we have some ideas in a PDF. We have just games and activities in a PDF, and then we have low cost for small libraries. Small and rural libraries often may have to really do a lot of fundraising to afford some summer reading things. And so we've tried to have lower cost ideas broken out for you. So again, it's very sliced and diced. Arts and crafts are in there. Passive programming is in there as a PDF, STEM specific, and then solo librarian friendly. So I know a lot of you are out there by yourselves or just working with maybe a few volunteers. And so we did make sure that we had a PDF just for y'all. The 2024 manual chapters this year are divided by some pretty neat segments: adventures in the dark, adventures in nature, adventures in imagination, adventures close to home, and then a section just on puzzles, scavenger hunts, and games, which I feel like are particularly suited for adventure. Before I'm done, I really wanted to point out our standalone printables, because I don't think that these get quite enough love. This is a PDF full of individual files that are really just grab and go. And so for those that really need something last minute, or those who just need kind of the concept of something that they can easily, and the content of something that they can easily take and make their own in another program like Canva, these standalone printables are really great for just those purposes. So I have a couple examples here that I know we've been talking a lot on our Facebook. We do have a Facebook programming group specifically that you can join at any point and leave at any point if you don't, if you're overloaded. But a lot of talk about reading records and activity logs and how you're going to log, how kids or adults or teens are going to log their reading for the year. But here's some great examples. Adventure bingo. So we've already given you the content, and we've given you this. You can print it and basically hand it out if you want to. You could put it on cardstock, or you can take these squares, go somewhere new, talk to a new person, and put them in your own concept. So we've tried to do some of the work ahead of time for you, and might be fun to actually do some that are very specific to your town or city or area, because we're encouraging folks to get out and go on adventures. Another example of this, summer adventure bingo. So, more activity based out in the world, but we have a lot of great ideas here as well. And these capitalize on many of the chapters that are in our manual. So daydream, use your imagination, go for a hike. So you see that we try to align all of these things. Our manual committees that volunteer their time to put this together every year are just really always thinking of those kinds of things and making connections and trying to make it easier for all of us. And then another one, this one may be a little bit for older kids or younger teens, book genre bingo. And so, encouraging use of this to get out and read more diversely, perhaps, and try to cover all of these. It'd be a really fun thing to do for a summer, I think. And then I'm going to close with this program. I really enjoy passive programming at my local library. They really do a great job of it. And just, they always have something interesting up in their foyer, and you can, take a look and contribute or not, but it's always interesting. So this is a choose your own adventure type of activity that you would put out in the library, place this on a table. You would come up with a story, and obviously that can, involve volunteers. It can involve creative writing groups that can come up with a story for your library. And then you basically kind of put it out on a weekly basis, and folks in your community vote on what's going to happen to the characters in the story. And so every week during summer, you could have this, the next installment of this happening at your library. And there are a couple of adaptations. You do ballots, so you could have a little ballot box, and there's a lot that you can do with this, I feel like. And if you're of the era where the choose your own adventure stories like I always enjoyed those. And so you could always put those types of books out. It could just be a book display on adventure books. And of course, we have a huge book list that you can use to put together that display as well. So we have some resources here, picture books and recommended series that would be good for it. So if you have those, you can easily pull them off your shelf. And this I mentioned just now, our book list, we have a PDF in our manual. It's a book list for all ages. This is pretty sought after by a lot of folks out there in library land. So this year you will see our book lists featured in Baker and Taylor. We are trying to partner more with organizations that we know you use all the time. And so try to make it easier for you to purchase books that are adventure related, that we've recommended, that align with our programs. So just trying to be more comprehensive about where we share our information out so that you can get it wherever you are. And that's really some of the highlights for me. If you have any questions or comments or feedback, I would love to hear it. I think we have maybe about 3 minutes or so. I'm gonna stop my share here so I can see you all.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Even knowing the resources, there's always new things.
Yes, there are.
And
we have
that's
clever
what's so
people.
exciting is you're constantly adding, like, even if you've looked at the manual, you've looked at the site, like somewhat recently, it's really worth checking frequently because they are adding things all of the time. And there are resources that I wasn't aware of.
Yes.
Which is really exciting. All the standalone activities are really great. The bingo. I'm excited for the Canva templates. All really great resources.
Yes. Yeah. We are too.
And again, I did put information about if you haven't downloaded the manual yet, there's information on our website. And if you don't have it, I've shared it out a bunch of times on Listserv, but if you need the code for that, just let me know and we'll get it to you. And then the other thing that we haven't mentioned is that every year we do, starts much earlier, in sometime between like October and January. The Department of Libraries makes some resources available to libraries for free through CSLP. And I know sometimes libraries miss that because it happens so early, but that is something that we do every year, that we make some resources available that you can order so you can get posters and bookmarks and things like that to promote the program. So hopefully a lot of you already got those. And if you have questions about that, you can always let me know too. Any questions for Dawn? Your presentation was so thorough that there's no questions.
I aim to please.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Really,
thank you so
really
much
exciting to see everything that's happening.
Yes. Go SRP.
Yes. Thanks. Okay. So next up, we have Susan Cox, who's the Conservation Educator Coordinator with the U.S. Forest Service, Eastern Region, and she's going to be talking about the Smokey Bear Reading Challenge. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everybody. Just bringing up my presentation now. Dawn, I just learned yesterday that Smokey has become the reading champion for the summer reading program. So we're really excited about that, and hopefully
we are too.
Getting some cool materials together to combine the two. But Yeah, so Smokey turns 80 this year, and let me sorry, I've got an alert here. So let me introduce myself. My name is Susan Cox. I'm the Conservation Education Coordinator for the Eastern region of the U.S. Forest Service. And I happen to be located across the river in New Hampshire, so not too far from you folks. So yeah, Smokey's Reading Challenge, it's come about to help us celebrate Smokey's 80th birthday. And we've been working like you, I know, for several months on the summer reading program. We have a couple of partners that helped us bring this together, the Natural Enquirer, which I'll talk about a little later, and the Georgia Public Library System with their youth librarian. They really helped us kind of understand your needs with the reading challenge. So that was really helpful of them to join us on this effort. Our program goals. To collaborate with you public libraries through a free reading program that engages our youth in learning about the environment, wildfire prevention, and natural resource careers, and to inspire exploration in local environment. And when we found out your theme for the summer, it was just like, this is a really happy discovery. So we're really excited to kind of have the blending of these two. And so our details, the challenge is available through Beanstack. It's available, we have our online resources. It's running now through November, and that's partly because we're bookending it between Smokey appeared in the Rose Bowl Parade on January 1st, and will be appearing in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on Thanksgiving. And so we kind of figured that was a nice bookend, and to allow you to have that flexibility of when you might want to hold it. You know, we've got Earth Day and Arbor Day and Get Outdoors Month, and also Fire Prevention Week in the fall, as well as the summer program. So you have the flexibility to do it whenever you feel like it. So what you get, and you may have already gotten, are Smokey stickers, Smokey scientist cards, and Smokey stamp with the Smokey's paw on it. And you know, you might want to use that to stamp the challenge sheets, or to you know, for some event that you're doing around the program. And then there's the digital toolkit. So in the digital toolkit, you have the reading log that you can download, and that includes information about Smokey, taking Smokey's challenge. Let's see, some ideas for adventuring outdoors, suggested your reading log, as well as some actions you might want to do as you're out there exploring. My cursor just kind of disappeared on me. There we go. You also get a template for either making buttons or stickers, and then the Smokey bookmarks that you can print off and have to give out to kids. We have website graphics. We have a poster that you can print off at both 8 by 11 or 11 by 17 sizes, and then social media graphics as well. And the certificate of completion, which is available either in full size 8 by 11 or a half size page, depending on how you want to print them off. And then some other incentives are on there, including some coloring sheets, Flat Smokey, which I'm trying to get somebody to help me make a life-size Flat Smokey. I haven't yet. But yeah, we're kind of excited about Flat Smokey. We want to see where Flat Smokey goes.
That would be awesome. I want to see that too.
And then we have suggested readings. We have picture books for the earlier readers, and included are fiction and nonfiction. The Woodsy Owl reader there you see with Dr. Worrell is Something in Our Natural Enquirer kit of materials, and that's learning about, you know, scientists, what scientists do, and kind of what they were interested in as kids. And then we have chapter books for more advanced readers. And again, the challenge is kind of geared to ages 4 through 10, but we wanted to accommodate all ages, and so there are books there for teenagers and adults as well. But we also want to encourage you to find books that are more relevant to your area. I mean, Vermont, we all know Vermont is very outdoor and nature oriented. And so I know there's a lot of resources out there for you to tap into, and encourage you to include those in any books that you might put out around the challenge. And then you can access all these digital resources at smokeybear.com. The more direct link, let me throw it in here. The more direct link on that site is here, but on smokeybear.com, you'll find other resources. You are welcome to tool around and just kind of look at what's there. And then just to note, in Vermont, the Green Mountain National Forest folks haven't quite organized around Smokey's birthday yet, but they are planning to have Smokey appearances. This is what they're hoping to be in these, parades and whatnot. And you might note Smokey will be making an appearance at Fenway in the August. So that's what the Green Mountain National Forest folks have in the works right now. But if you want to connect with them, you can stop at one of their district offices or their supervisor's office, or contact me and I can help you connect with them. They weren't quite ready to kind of give me what they want to plan. Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation is also planning Smokey appearances in state parks during the summer. And Rebecca Roy, the contact there, has just thrown out there, if you want to do kind of a story hour or some kind of event at the parks when Smokey appears, please contact her, and she would love to work with you and have a library event at the state parks. So putting that out there too. And then just some more resources that we would like you to be aware of. I mentioned the Natural Enquirer, and that is a program that produces a variety of science education materials for pre-K through high school. And it's a way for students to learn about the science we do in the Forest Service and about scientists and careers. And the materials are all free to download and free to order. Many are translated into Spanish. And so I will put the link to that in the chat. Smokey Bear Live is a distance learning program for students to learn about Smokey and Smokey's message of preventing unwanted wildland fires and campfire safety. There's 3 programs out there already, and a 4th program in the series will be on a wildland firefighter careers. That will be out in the fall. We're shooting for Fire Prevention Week. And then Discover the Forest is a website to help children and families explore the forest near them. And there's activities and a map of places to explore. And you can see by the website, it is in both English and Spanish. And then Every Kid Outdoors, you may have heard of this program. Every 4th grader is eligible to receive an Every Kid Outdoors pass that allows them and their family free entry into national parks, national forests, and other national lands that charge an entry fee. The website has activities for educators to do with students, as well as to allow them to download vouchers. There's also a tab on the website to plan trips. And the passes are valid from September 1st through August 31st of a student's 4th grade year. And so current 4th graders can get a pass right now. Future 4th graders can obtain a pass in September. And so as librarians, you can do an Every Kid Outdoors program for 4th graders and get them the vouchers. And then Learn About Forest. We are a partner with Project Learning Tree, and they have a Learn About Forest toolkit, which is for families to get outside and learn about forests in their backyard, or forest, national forests and that type of thing. So that's another great resource to access. And then just thank you, everyone, for inviting us to join you today. And you know, I hope that you're able to incorporate Smokey's Challenge in your summer reading program or somewhere around this year to celebrate Smokey's 80th. And so here is my contact as well as Rebecca's, and I will pop the other websites into the chat.
Thank you so much. And we put a bunch of links in there too, but feel free to put more in, and then we'll gather all this to share out to folks. So if anybody has questions for Susan, you can put them in the chat. You can unmute and ask them. So many awesome resources.
Yeah, so I threw all them in the chat there for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it fits so nicely with the theme this year. And as you noted several times, just generally works. I mean, you know, I think it works well anywhere, but especially Vermont, just like there's a lot of outdoor programming, outdoor everything. So I think that works well. Patty, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm a volunteer at the Waterville Town Library, which is an all-volunteer library. We have no paid staff, and so I'm learning more about Smokey, that initiative. I'd only heard little bits about it, but I didn't know if it's too late to get like the toolkit, like the stickers and cards, and also how much they cost, because we have a very tiny budget, so that's a consideration too.
Jonathan, did the state already receive their materials?
So we didn't receive, we weren't really set up to distribute materials in that way, but Rachel, who I've been communicating with, who connected us, Susan, has I put a link up above where you can request stickers and incentives to be sent directly. And until that form, at some point that form will close, but as far as I know, it's still open. And they have been shipping things directly to libraries, which is really fantastic. And so I imagine that some folks on this call today have already received those incentives. I've heard from some people, but if you haven't, you can still order them. And the digital toolkit will be available, you know, for the whole year. So.
And what about the cost?
It's free.
It's free.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. No, it's free.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've our cache that has those materials has already sent out over 15,000 kits. So
yeah,
we're really excited for the libraries to use those and have the challenge.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Again, I've heard from a few folks that received theirs and are excited about it.
Good.
And I think looks like that's all the questions. Thanks again, Susan, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Really excited to have this program and to tie it in with summer reading too. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Up next, we have Tim Morgan, who's the program data and child nutrition manager with Hunger Free Vermont. We're excited to have him here today. He's going to be talking about summer meal programs, which we always get a lot of questions about and a lot of interest from libraries, but can be a little complicated. So Tim's going to try to hopefully help us make it a little less complicated and give us some resources. So thanks for joining us, Tim.
Thank you. Yes, summer meals are really complicated. I'm going to do my best to try to really sort of simply explain how the summer meal programs work, how you can get connected to the program, and what that might look like. It's okay if you don't get it all. The best thing to do is probably just to follow up with an email for me if you've got extra questions, because it can be kind of hard to navigate through all of it. So I'm gonna enter into full screen. All right, so what I'm going to start with is just sort of a little brief overview of the Summer Food Service Program, SFSP, which I'll...
Sorry, Tim, I'm not seeing, just seeing a black screen right now.
Oh, it's still not working?
It's not, so maybe try again. I know it worked earlier when we tried it out. It's always something. Always something, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's try this again.
Yeah, try it again.
All right, you seeing it yet?
Not yet.
Great.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just seeing a black screen.
Okay. Maybe I'll stay out of. It looks like I'm seeing myself frozen. Let me stop sharing again. Well, this might make this really interesting.
We'll adapt. Again, I know that you have some maybe a one sheeter or a slideshow that you can share with us that we'll share out too, that has all the resources.
Yeah. So the Summer Food Service Program is the federal program through the USDA that feeds kids in the summer. Meals are free for all children and can be served to anyone 18 and under. Unlike other programs that, like school meals or, kids who are not school age can also get meals, which is great. Programs have to be operated in what are called area eligible locations. It hasn't shown up yet by any chance, has it?
It hasn't. No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it hasn't shown up.
And an area eligible location is somewhere where the 50% or more of the children are enrolled in free and reduced price meals. And I'm going to get a little bit more into area eligibility and how to determine that. And that's the part that I really, really wanted to share my screen for. It's actually had like a little bit of a walkthrough about how you do that, but we'll make do. Meals can be served and eaten on site. And in rural areas, it's new now that meals can be provided to go. And this non-congregate option is available pretty much everywhere except parts of Chittenden County. There's some surprising pockets of rural even inside Chittenden County that you may not expect. So it's always worth checking. And this I have in the presentation linked to the rural designation mapper to kind of find more information about that. The key there's a couple key terms I want to share before I continue, which is sponsors and sites, the kind of key people who are involved in a summer food service program. Sponsor is the nonprofit organization responsible for implementing the summer food service program at one or more sites, and a site is the location where the meals are served and picked up. And those organizations don't have to be the same person. So the easiest way to implement a summer meal program as a library is probably to work directly with your school, your local schools. They can be the sponsor, they can run the program, manage the paperwork, all that kind of stuff, produce the meals, and you're serving them on site and minimally responsible for the administration of the program, and really just counting meals and knowing that they're there. So the summer food service program in 2024, there's a few new rules and new opportunities around the program. that make it a little bit more exciting this year. So there's a lot of opportunity for growth around meal programs this summer. That is in large part because schools are much more effectively counting free and reduced price eligible kids. Because they are counting kids more effectively, through a number of different ways, which I don't need to get into, more schools are reaching 50% free or reduced price enrollment, pretty much than ever before in the state. And as many as 90 schools may gain area eligibility for summer, for meals this summer. It may not be quite that many, but it's going to be a lot, and it's really exciting. And that also means the communities are eligible for the program as well. But if you're not area eligible, don't lose hope. There are other ways of serving meals. And I'll touch on them a tiny bit. The application process has gotten a little bit more involved this year as FNS, the Food and Nutrition Service at USDA, has implemented some new guidelines around that, which is another great reason to not try to sponsor your own summer meal program, but to work with an existing sponsor who handles the paperwork piece. So I really want to dig into area eligibility, and Jonathan, I'm going to try to do the share my screen one more time, but I also just shared the presentation with you in case.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, I was going to say you could do that too.
So you might get an email.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm
going to try one more time.
Yeah, you can stop and try again, and then I will.
Presentation mode. So if I don't know if it's working yet, or we're still just seeing a blank screen. I'm just going to keep going and talking about area eligibility and kind of introducing it a little bit. So there are a couple of ways to be eligible, area eligible, to operate the summer food service program. The first way is for your local school to be 50% free or reduced price enrolled. The school and their attendance area may participate if they are 50% or higher free and reduced price enrolled. And the state collects all of that information and posts it on the Agency of Education website. So if my screen is still not visible, I'm going to stop sharing.
I have it up. I'm going to put it up here in just a second.
Wonderful. And then you can also gain area eligibility through, oh, amazing. Look at that. We're down on slide 4. So also you can gain eligibility through census data, census block groups or tracts where 50% of children are eligible for free or reduced price meals. Also an option. And then there are also closed enrolled meal programs, which are not open to the public, where if half of the kids enrolled in the meal site program are free or reduced price enrolled, then they can all eat free. But these kinds of programs can only serve the children who are enrolled in the program. So this is another way to have a free for all of the kids involved program if you have a closed or kind of restricted program. Sorry, my computer just threw like several pop-ups in front of my face, which was real helpful. That is also an option, but let's walk through a couple of examples of how to determine eligibility. So we can go to the next slide. So first we'll walk through. I can see it, yeah. So the school data, we'll walk through that first. To use school data to determine eligibility, it's again 50% free or reduced price enrollment, whole school attendance area is eligible. As I said before, that the report of free reduced price meal enrollment is on the Vermont Agency of Education website, child nutrition programs. You scroll to the bottom of that page and click on this most current free or reduced price eligibility report. And then any school that has they have a percentage low income column and a big table in that report. You find your school, look at the percent low income. If it's 50% or higher, you're eligible. There could be some more eligible schools coming soon because AOE is going to be updating that report with some new information quite soon. I don't know exactly when that will go live, but I'm told to expect it imminently. It's not up yet, but that will be posted on that same page. Next slide. So I just want to walk through an example. Here is a couple of lines from the report that you can see. It's actually the first 3 schools that are listed. It's alphabetical by the School Food Authority, the supervisory union. And you can see here, one of these 3 schools, Bridport Central School, is above 50% free or reduced price. Their percentage low income is at 52%, so they are eligible to have an open summer meal site. Mary Hogan and the Bingham Memorial Schools are below 50%. They are not currently eligible to host an open summer meal site through the school data. However, and it's their surrounding communities. So a site could happen anywhere in Bridport. That would be the attendance area of the school. And schools that are kind of close to 50% are the ones to watch with the, so Mary Hogan could be a school to watch in Middlebury, could be a school to watch if when the AOE's addendum is released, those 40% ballpark schools could be bumping up to 50% with the new data. So, and then any schools that are very, very close to 50, think 48%, 49%, could maybe collect a few more meal applications and do a little drive or push to become eligible to get over the threshold. So that's a way to just think strategically there. And then next slide, we'll dig into census data a little bit as well. So that's using the American Communities Survey data, and it's by census block group or tract, and it's free reduced price eligibility based on household income, because that's what the survey measures. The USDA has a map tool, which I'll give a really brief intro on how to use, as does the Food Research and Action Center, which if the USDA map is giving you problems, because it has all of the national data in it, so it can be kind of slow to load. The FRAC map, they break it up, and so there's only like 3 states in it, the one that has Vermont. So that's can load a little bit more easily. It has a little bit less information in it, but that can be a good. So on the USDA map, anything areas represented in red are eligible for summer meals, and then just some additional adjacent areas can also be determined to be eligible to serve as an open summer meal site. Next slide, I'll show you a couple of little clips from the map. Here we are in Essex Junction. There are 2 areas on the map here that are pink. They are area eligible, or red, I guess. Red, pink. Who cares? And when you click on that pink area, it brings up this little box I've got to simulate it. If you click the little arrow, it brings up the actual data. And you can see there are children 0 to 18 and children 0 to 12. And either of these measures can be used. Either one of the measures can be used. So you don't have to have both of them over 50%. That is true for this block group. But that's not required. So if the 0 to 12-year-olds were over 50%, but the 0 to 18s was at 45%. It's okay, it's still an eligible block group. And then next slide, there's also actually one other block group in Essex Junction that's hiding there. It's in blue, but it's actually eligible. And this is a really actually important block group for the Essex Westford School District because it includes the Maple Street Park when they have a really, really high traffic summer meal site at the pool. So here, the block group is adjacent to an eligible block group, and it is over 40% free or reduced. And so it can be out, if it's over 40%, then it can be averaged with that next adjacent block group. And I sort of showed here the data from the first block group that we saw the last time is on the left. The data from this block group is on the right. You kind of add the number of kids and the number of free reduced price eligible kids together, divide that. So it's 165 kids 0 to 12 who are eligible out of 305. That's 54%. So that's eligible. That is really complicated. So if you're trying to average block groups, the best thing that you can do is just email me. And just do that. We can work on it together and look at it together because it's really hard to understand. And that's fine. So you might be wondering, okay, I can determine if I'm eligible, but now what? So next slide. The basic steps to get started are actually pretty easy. Now, the first thing that you should do is reach out to your school. The best person to reach out to is a district food service director if you have one. Some districts don't have a food service director or they work with a management company. In those cases, it's often best to reach out to the business manager, finance director, whatever their title is. They often oversee eventually the food service program. And you can usually find the right contact information on the school's supervisory union website. And the best, so start there, reach out, say, we would love to have summer meals at our program this summer, at the library. Here's what we want to do. Would you be interested in having, or could you have us as an additional site in the community, and see what they're planning on doing? And this is kind of the best solution, the best way forward to try to become a summer meal site. If the district is not planning on doing much of a summer meal program or anything like that, you can reach out to me and we can try to think about alternative solutions. There are some districts out there that are looking to serve additional areas outside of their regular service area where another district maybe isn't able to step up in the summertime. Sometimes the schools are like, well, we can't do summer meals this summer because the kitchen's getting renovated. So, hands are tied. There's not much they can do about that. They can't make the meals, they can't really serve them. So, but there may be another sponsor out there that I can help you find. So if your district isn't planning on operating a meal program, but you still want to try to find out a way to be a site, reach out to me. And there will be more info coming from the Agency of Ed, a program webinar in April. You can find information about that when it's available. I don't think they've announced the date yet. And you can find lots more info about the program on their summer food service program web page. If you're not eligible, you could still run a closed program or a camp program that only serves kids participating in like a restricted program. And programs are free for all kids if 50% of your kids are enrolled, or free or reduced price, and camps can be reimbursed based on the individual child's eligibility. And then next slide, we also have a number of materials to share with families and kids. We have them available on our website, or we'll happily send you materials printed. We have bookmarks, 11 by 14 posters, which are pictured on the slide here. We also have lawn signs. If you're having a site and you want to stick a lawn sign out front when the site's open, that can be helpful. We have some graphics for social media or e-newsletter, things like that. And we have flyers and more. We'll have an order form for this coming soon, which will be available on this web page. But you can also, next slide, reach out to my colleague Mariana. So her information is on the right side of the slide here. My email is on the left. So if you want to any help, like trying to become a meal site or even sponsoring your own meal program, reach out to me by all means. And if you're interested in outreach materials or things like that, the person to reach out to is Mariana. So that's it. So I'm going to stop talking because you might have questions about how this all works. So
thanks, Tim. And we will we can the slideshow you sent me, we can share that out with everybody too.
Yeah.
And we'll put it up on our webpage.
Yeah. I made a PDF of it. I'll email it to you.
Oh, yeah, great. Please do that, and then we'll share it out. Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Tim? I know that's a lot of information, but that's really helpful because it's something we get questions about every year, and I don't always know how to answer those questions. So I'm going to send people to you, Tim, who have questions about it. That's great.
Always happy to answer questions after the fact if you don't have them now, but you have them later. Summer meals, it's a USDA Food and Nutrition Service program. So by default, it's complicated. And trying to summarize it all in 20 minutes is difficult. So
yeah,
I hope that all made sense. And if you have questions, please just shoot me an email anytime.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Appreciate you joining us. We'll share out all that information. All right. So, so much good information today. Next, we are going to hear from Becky Garrity, who is with Beanstack and is our Beanstack representative. I think Becky is with us, hopefully.
Yep. Hello.
Excellent.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to. You use at the top, there's a share function.
Yeah, now we
if you
got
click
it.
on that, it gives you some different options.
Can you see stuff now?
Yes, I can see stuff.
Awesome. Okay. Teams always throws me off because it doesn't show you like the little preview.
I know.
So I never know what you're seeing.
Well,
yeah. Thanks for having me today, Jonathan. It's good to be here and to chat with all of my Vermont friends. We are just going to do a nice little overview today, kind of talk about what is going on the Vermont Beanstack site ahead of summer, what it is that you as librarians and as branch administrators or whatever you happen to be can do with the Vermont site, and then also just sort of in summer, for summer in general when it comes to utilizing that tool in your library. So the first thing that I kind of want to do is go through, I have a couple slides here that are just like best practice tips and tricks for summer. Now, you all are sharing one big Beanstack site. Jonathan just linked to your main Vermont page that kind of gives some information about this, talks a little bit more about what's available, what you can do, etc. But check that out if you haven't. In a nutshell, Beanstack is a platform that helps you or allows you to run different programs, different reading challenges in a digital way. So we've done a lot with summer. Jonathan posts a lot of other kind of challenges year round. But basically, as a Vermont library, you have access to this site. We will look at the actual site here in just a little bit. You're able to share, to send your patrons and your residents and your community and whomever to the site to participate in the kind of statewide summer reading program. So even though you don't have access to actually change the content on the site, there is still a lot that you can do to kind of customize the program in your library while also utilizing this tool to provide your patrons that online experience. So that's what I just want to start with, kind of to like first off here, and then we'll look at the site a little bit. But before I go too deep in, are there any questions, comments, anything from anybody who's used it in the past? Kind of open floor for just a minute. All right. Well, we can go ahead then and take a look at my different tips and tricks. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say the link. Someone said the link isn't working. I can post it in again. I'm not sure. The link to the Department of Libraries page has a bunch of information, including some pretty in-depth recordings that we've done in the past, that Becky has done in the past, that really walk through a little bit more than what we're going to do today. So there's a whole bunch of information available on that page. And so I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, I'll definitely draw attention to the recorded sessions down here at the bottom. We do these pretty regularly. I'm excited to be able to come into a meeting that was already happening today. So there are a couple really good ones here that kind of go over what the challenges look like, what the patron experience looks like, summer prep, kind of similar to what we're going to do today. And then all of the different resources as well. Of course, if you ever have any questions or you're just sort of like, what are we doing here? You can reach out to Jonathan. He'll, hook you up with me or answer your questions. He's got all the good stuff. So awesome. So one thing that I kind of, wanted to put together here is 5 tips for a successful summer. They're real quick, but you'll have your program already built. That's, I think, kind of one of the hinge things here is you're thinking about what exactly is it that I need to do to prepare here. The program will be built, the site will be set up. You don't have to worry about any of that like technology side. Your focus is going to be promoting the product in your library, engaging your community, and kind of building a program, like a supplementary program around the digital platform. So my number 1 tip, and I do believe the program allows for such things on the site, really think about engaging all ages this year. If you've not done anything for adults in the past, now's a really great time to start thinking about adding that kind of content to your summer initiative. Between 22 and 23, we saw almost so close a 65% increase in the number of adults who were participating in summer reading programs. A lot of our libraries reported that kids have gotten back. Kid levels are back to where, they were or darn close. But what was interesting about last year is it felt like adults really started discovering that, oh, these programs can be for me too. Oh, this is kind of a fun little thing that I get to do. So we definitely encourage looking at your whole community as a whole, encouraging family participation, providing something for those adults, and really letting them lean into it and embrace what you've set up for them. My second tip, and this is a cool thing that comes along with that statewide Beanstack access, is you do have access, your patrons have access to the Beanstack mobile app. So aside from the web client, Beanstack and all of the content are also available on any Android or Apple device through the Beanstack Tracker app. And we need to update our graphic, but we do have continued stats for 22-23 that show a steady growth in the number of people who are accessing a summer program or any kind of library, created program during the summer on the mobile app. So when we introduced the app in 2018, we were like a confident 4% of readers, right? Well, now, 6 years later, we're looking at 42% of all participants who are looking at Beanstack are doing this through their mobile app. So I definitely recommend, especially if this, maybe this isn't your first Beanstack rodeo, you've done it the last 2 or 3 years, but you're kind of wondering, like, is anybody using this? Talk up the app. We can definitely see, who's doing what, who's using what. And it's really cool. It's really easy. And it's just a really convenient thing for folks to use. Tip number 3, this is more a Jonathan tip than anything, but even if you're using Beanstack for summer and we're not using, Beanstack for spring, I know, Jonathan, you create all sorts of cool things on there, but consider doing something kind of as like a pre-summer initiative to engage your patrons ahead of that big summer rush. So one thing that we see in libraries across the US when we did our summer survey this year is 94% of them did something else in Beanstack, right? So Jonathan's already putting that content out there. He does keep a pretty regular rotation of good business and good stuff in the website, in the mobile app. So encourage your patrons. This is not a medical event. Encourage your patrons to take a look at the site in the fall, in the winter, in the spring. And the cool thing about that is you will see a little growth. The more people are in there, the more they're paying attention to it. When they sign up for the app, they're going to indicate which library that they belong to or that they go to. So your stats still trickle to you. You still get connected. I see the Valerie Clark or the Sheldon Library. Sorry, Valerie Clark, you're a person. I know that. And I see the South Burlington Library here, Goodrich Memorial. Like, the people are going to pick, like, I am a South Burlington patron. So when we run the reports off of the Beanstack site, we see, hey, here's 200 people that are attributed to South Burlington. So all of that data, don't worry, you're not losing any of that participation. You're not losing any of that credit. And the people that go in there year round, they are ready to roll when it comes to summer. If you aren't, if you're not quite sure what to do this spring, do a sign up drive, do a day where you invite people to come in, do a library card drive week. You encourage people to come in, make sure their cards are still valid. If they don't have one, get one. If they lost one, redo it. And part of that can be having them sign up for Beanstack, having them, check out your Hoopla, get a Libby account, kind of a library resource day. And in doing that, you're making them all the more prepared to dive into something like this when it's a go time on, June 1st or whenever your start time is. I also recommend, and I'm going to put a big old asterisk on this, adding incentives. We know bribery is insanely effective. However, in this world where everything costs $10 and, it's not as easy to buy 300 rubber ducks as it might have been in the past, your incentives don't have to be things. They don't have to be money. They can be, oh, I bought a giant bag of candy from Sam's Club, and every time a kid earns a badge, they get to pull a piece of candy from the treasure chest. Low impact, low cost. I have also seen incentives where people are running their reports, which you do have access to all of the reports and all of the statistics on the back end. I'll show you that in a second. And pulling their top 3 readers, for the week, or the top 10 for the month, and recognizing them in a newsletter blast or recognizing them on a Facebook post. Recognition is traditionally a free incentive. And we're really seeing, especially in younger ages, that is amazingly effective for the effort that it takes just to recognize someone. I will also say, as an adult, kind of that, former recovering gifted kid style adult, I do really like to be told that I'm doing a good job. So, even think about that with your older audiences. Just because they're not 10 doesn't mean they don't want to be featured as a top reader or like the best review written or something like that. The stats to go along with this, 1 or 2% or 1 or 2 incentives can see as much of a 13% increase. 3 or more incentives kind of doubles that, puts you in the 26, 27% increase range. But it's a great idea, even if it's just one thing at the end to say like, thanks for participating, or they get like a little, kit or baggie of free stuff at the beginning. Anything, can really kind of boost and encourage that participation. My last tip is a tip that I just, I put in every slide because you can never be like overtrained. So we're kind of doing this now in this moment, training and preparing and making sure that you know what you're looking at, what you're doing, what it does. But if your library has never used this before, I did see someone put that in the chat. So welcome aboard. There are plenty of training sessions you can watch. We have lots and lots. I just did a staff and patron essentials session yesterday. I should have that recording up and available on our help desk for you guys. I'm also going to pull up and show you where you can find all of those resources. Even though you're not controlling the technical side of the site, you still have access to all of our resources, all of our guides for promotion, all of our guides for engagement and interaction. All of that is open and available to you. If you're looking at training staff, we do recommend, watching the videos, having them watch the videos. If you can do a little competition, of some sort, like whoever can watch the most videos and get to the end, whatever works for your folks. People will do anything for a $10 Starbucks gift card. That's what I'll say. So really remember, you want to engage your staff. You want to make sure that they know what's going on. And the other key element that I do talk about in that staff and patron essentials session, make sure your frontline staff know the patron side, because that patron side is what they're going to be supporting people on. Nobody's rolling into the library and they're going to be like, could you like really outline how the drawings feature works in Beanstack? I would love to know that. It's just not going to happen. They're going to come in and they're going to be like, I'm locked out, or I do not know how to log. Show me how to do this. So the more comfortable your staff, especially those like frontline patron facing day in, day out folks are with the app, with the website, the more they can help build confident, engaged, and empowered patrons. So that's my TED Talk on engagement. Thoughts, comments, questions,
can I just add something in there? So again, there's lots of resources. I would say, if you have questions, email me.
Yes.
And I can point you in the right direction. And especially the one thing I would say is about submitting is please don't submit tickets to Beanstack. If there is something happening, reach out to me. And if usually I can resolve it I can reach out to Becky or I can figure it out. But if we need to submit a ticket, I will do that. But again, because there's 189 libraries sharing one site, it gets a little tricky for that. So that is one thing that I would say. But as I mentioned, if there are basically have any questions about it, reach out to me. And if there's challenges you want to see on there, I frequently add ones that people reach out they want to see on there. And then also, if you want to be more involved in creating some of the challenges, we've been working with some folks the last couple of years, especially Megan from Fletcher Free, who wasn't able to be here today, who's been helping develop the summer reading challenge. Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, you definitely, I'll echo Jonathan on that. You definitely have a voice and a say in what goes on this site. It is a collaborative effort. So if there is a challenge and you're like, man, it'd be so cool if we were running XYZ, reach out to Jonathan and, he can make that kind of stuff happen for you. It doesn't just have to be, well, everybody in the state agreed we want this. If there's something that would really resonate for your community, reach out and you might find that you're not the only community that would work for. Awesome. Any questions or chats or comments? I'm going to do a little nitty gritty sort of view here in a second as well. But anything before I move on? Okay, cool. So I've logged in. I have a nifty little twofold account that I've created here. So I set myself up to have this account that mirrors both the access that you have as library members of the site, but then my also has a whole slew of readers attached to it. So we can look at both sides at the same time. So I want to first look at the patron side and just sort of recap on what that experience is like. So I'm logged in here. I believe this is a family account, meaning I have one individual. I do believe in this case it is me. I am an adult. I am on here as our account lead or our account creator in Beanstack. When I access my account, I can see, look at all of these cool challenges that are happening right now that I can participate in. If I want to sign myself up for Women's History, that sounds great. And maybe also Smokey Bear. I'm very passionate about Smokey Bear. I built that challenge. So everybody should be doing Smokey Bear. It's his 80th birthday, and Smokey Bear is strangely jacked in all graphics. So enjoy that, laugh about that with me. He is looking good for 80. But these are excellent challenges. Again, they're available to all of you, to all of your patrons, regardless of location. And there's awesome activities. So, if you come in here to Smokey, the challenge is to read 3 books and then complete all of these neat little like fire safety, environment steward, just being like a good person in the woods kind of challenges. You can, of course, log your reading and activities. If it is a multi-person account, you're always going to have the ability to swap out which reader you're logging to. And you can also log to all readers. So if all of us sat down and all of us read 25 minutes before bed, I can just come in here and say, yep, today we read 25 minutes. Also good to note and important to note that your patrons can track the actual like titles and authors that they're reading. If you have folks that are like hesitant to get in on the challenges element, a secondary way to kind of market this to your people is it is a virtual reading log. It is the piece of paper that they've had stashed in the back of their planner for 30 years, but it's on their phone and it's really easy to access and it's got pretty pictures and it tracks all kinds of really cool stats for you. So even if you have folks that are like, I don't know, I'm not really interested in badges, I'm not really interested in blah, 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 there are other elements of the tool that can resonate with them as well. I actually don't know if Teams will allow me. I was going to tease and say I'll share my phone, but I do not know how to do that on Teams. I only know how to do that in Zoom.
Yeah, I don't know if Teams is that cool.
I don't think it is. I'll do like one quick. Yeah, no, I can only stop sharing. I can't add a new share. But download the mobile app, check it out. It's super
the app's great. It is.
Do that. I will say that I am very driven by the streak feature. So like the more you read, the more consecutive you read. Like right now, we don't have a streak, but I am very passionate about my personal reading streak. All right, so we looked at logging. We looked at, you can switch accounts. Obviously, you can have multiple different people on an account. Another really cool thing that you can do here, since you are a statewide system, your patrons have sort of a one-up on everybody else, and that is that they can connect with any of their buddies all across the state. Now, this is not a social media tool. There is no messaging. There are no pictures. There's no liking, hearting, thumbs upping, thumbs downing, angry reacting, etc. It is literally just, wow, they read more than me. I want to read more than them. So what's kind of cool, like if I wanted to add my friend here, like if I share, I have to accept a privacy notice. I'm going to take my friend code here. I'm going to copy it. And now I can actually pop over to my little brother here, enter my friend code that I just got from my good friend Cleo or Nova. And now I've added Nova as a friend. And what I can see is I can see that she's on a 1-day streak. Once upon a time, she logged 2 days in a row, which was very exciting. She has a total of 190 minutes read. I can see the challenges she's in. And because I agreed on that privacy connection, I can actually see what she's logged. So this creates a really fun sort of community. And it is typically, it's only within a site. So a typical library, you can only be friends. Sorry, spring is springing here. You can only be friends with other people at your library. But again, because you're a statewide Beanstack system, I could be friends with anybody in the state. If I have an aunt that lives in the northern part of Vermont and goes to a completely different library, I can friend her and we can kind of compete. I can also check out my leaderboard. Oh, maybe not because I don't have enough friends. But when you have enough friends, there's a leaderboard that'll kind of stack you up and show you like where you rank amongst your friends, how you're doing. We have one of these amongst everybody at Beanstack on our special Beanstack site. And I was winning in February, but I did not read a lot in March. And now all the people that have babies that are just reading to them every night are beating me again. And it's tragic, you know. It's very motivating to beat your friends and colleagues in a game like this. So that's definitely something, again, it can be done on the app, it can be done on the web. I highly, highly recommend promoting that with your patrons as well. Other great tools, they can see their reading log, they can see everything that they've logged. They can get different book lists, you know, if you have things that you want to suggest, all sorts of really cool tools in the patron side. I'm going to switch to the admin experience just super, super fast. If you have any questions, chat them in, shout them out. I'm very interruptible. I'm good. Okay. So as you're thinking of things, if you want to chat them, I'll definitely catch them. But just real fast on the admin side, if you log in with your libraries, like higher level, I think you all have a lower level and a higher level. The higher level access is going to look like this. And this is where you can manage all of your patrons. So if you come to people, you know, I could search for the Beanstack family. That's who we were just looking at. And I can take a look at, you know, what Enzo's, or this is me, what I've got going on, what I'm enrolled in, the badges that I have not earned, the badges that I have earned. Just gives you a really nice overview. Of course, if someone has come into the library and they're like, hey, can you throw 20 minutes on for me? You can do that from this screen. You can do that from your patron screen. I go really in depth on this in a lot of the recorded trainings that you have access to. So just sort of showing this off for right now. You can also access in the challenges tab here, if you ever want to run a drawing based on your patrons' participation in a challenge. So say we get to the end of summer and you're like, hey, I want, you know, everybody that read at least 10 minutes from my library, you're now in a drawing for a grand prize. You can do that. You would set up a general drawing. The key to something like that is just making sure that you've selected your library. Otherwise, you're going to get like a whole lot of Vermonters that don't apply to you. So definitely make sure that you're selecting. Yeah. I mean, you can give prizes to people in all kinds of other towns and cities if you really want, but you're going to want to pick your branch. And then also make sure
that's a good, just in general, sorry, Becky, just in general, again, because we are all sharing this, is that you do have like you can see records from other libraries. So just be mindful of that and not to modify records that aren't from your library. So that is one of the tricky things of all sharing one site.
Yeah. Don't delete anybody else's people. It's rude.
No.
And generally frowned upon. But yeah, you can run your own drawings, you can base it on different things, and you can also see your own statistics. This is not the button I wanted. You can come into reports at any time, view your participation stats. There are some really great, if you come into the branches category in the reports, reader participation by challenge and branch is gonna be like the report. So for instance, I can click on Smokey Bear. Oh gosh, I do not know what site I'm signed up for on here. sorry, Dover, you're getting picked on. But it would list out every single person. Look, Dover, if you're on the call, you have a participant. Congratulations. Wyatt Urquhart is a confident and excited Smokey Bear reading participant. But you could like take a look. It gives you all of their participation, lets you know when they registered, and really gives you a good look at who's doing what. And then the last one I'll mention, because I am 10 minutes over time, is your branch participation totals by challenge. This one's just really handy if you just want quick looks. So like Barnett, you got 2 people in 1,000 books, just really fast eyeball. You can do one of those too. Okay. Other specific questions. I've hit everything I wanted to hit and I'm 11 minutes over. So you can tell me to go away. But if you have any questions, definitely reach out to Jonathan, pop them in chat. I'll stick around and chat on your chat. But let me know what I can help with.
And then one thing is that the summer challenge for this year, we were hoping to have it ready to show you, but we're still working on it. But information will be coming out very soon about that. And then whenever we send out information, we'll send out all the reminders and links to recordings and stuff for Beanstack. So that's going to be coming out soon. And what we will do is we'll make a staff version of it, so that staff challenge, so that you can review what the challenge looks like before it goes live for patrons. And I really like the spring idea, Becky. So I think that it would be nice that maybe we can do like a very simple like spring challenge as leading up to summer reading, just for to get patrons ready for that.
Awesome. All right.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Stop my
Appreciate you joining us.
share and go back into the distance. But like I said, I'll hang out and chat just for a little bit in case any questions pop up.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having.
Yes. Okay. Sorry for a little bit of delay, but we do have Karen Gravelin with us. And we're excited to have Karen with us today to present some information about the ABLE Library and the National Library Service for Blind and Print Disabled, and some specific summer resources around that. So Karen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I will try to keep this quick so that you all have time to do the other things, whatever other
No,
things you have.
take your time. Take your time. The other thing is just hearing me talk more, which
well,
people hear me talk all the time. So no, take your time. There's been a lot of fantastic resources presented today. So
awesome. So
thank you.
Can you see my slideshow? Okay.
Yes.
I really dislike Teams and the way it looks. So
yeah.
Sorry about that. So as Jonathan mentioned, my name is Karen Gravelin. I am the director of the ABLE Library, as well as the consultant for inclusive services. And for those of you who may not be aware of the ABLE Library, we are Vermont's library for the blind and print disabled. So we serve Vermonters of all ages around the state who have a disability that prevents them from being able to read standard print. So I'm just going to give you some information about our summer reading program and how we can be a resource for you and your patrons over the summer. But before I do that, since I have a captive audience, I would like to go over some statistics on people with disabilities in Vermont. I apologize if you've been to a training where I've already discussed this, but I just think it's so important for people to know this because it can really change how you view providing library services in your community. So you can see in this first image on this slide, which is an outline of Vermont. It has 4 human figures in it. And it says that over 126,000 adults in our state have a disability. And that's equal to 24%, or about 1 in 4 adults. This data, which is from the CDC, is broken down further into what the CDC calls functional disability types. So the CDC is saying that these 126,000 people have a disability that affects one of 6 categories that they determine as part of daily living. And so I just want to mention what those 6 categories are and the percentage of people who have a disability that affects that category. Mobility, and that's 9%, cognition, 12%, independent living, 6%, hearing, 5%, vision and self-care are both 3% each. And so those percentages just represent how many people of that 126,000 have a disability that affects one of those categories. So the previous information was just about adults, but for children, the Vermont Agency of Education reported that just over 14,000 students ages 5 through 21 had an individual education plan in the 2021-2022 school year, which is just over 17% of all students enrolled in public schools. So that means that over 14,000 students had a disability that affected their ability to learn. And just for context, Vermont's total public school enrollment was over 80,000 students for that same school year. And so the reason that I bring up these statistics is to show people that you are already serving people with disabilities, whether you realize it or not. So knowing who you serve can help you find ways to be more inclusive and accessible for your community. And I also think that being aware of how many people have disabilities can help people recognize that making accommodations for folks should be part of the standard way that we do business as libraries, rather than being an exception we make when people are requesting it. So now I'll end that spiel and talk to you a little bit more about summer reading. So I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of a training that I did for the New England Summer Summit last year. It's called Inclusive Summer Reading, Making Your Library and Programming More Accessible. It goes over easy ways to be more accessible that don't involve a ton of money. And I will share that link in the chat if I can copy and paste. Sorry, I'm not one of those people who can like very seamlessly.
I can share it too, Karen.
Oh, I got it for now, but yeah, thank you. So if you do watch it and have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about any of the topics that I mentioned in the training, or even just to brainstorm ideas with you. Some of the brief takeaways from that training that I just want to share today very quickly are that you don't have to engage in a construction project to be more accessible to people with disabilities. I know that in an ideal world, we would all love to, install ramps for every door and elevators to every floor. And while those are super important and might be necessary for making your actual building accessible, there are other things you can do too. You can do things like host a before or after hours tour of the library. You can include language in your programming descriptions that lets people know that they can request accommodations if they need to. You can provide programs with accessibility in mind, whether it's making sure that the program is held in a space that can be accessed by wheelchairs, having a presenter that uses a microphone for people who are hard of hearing, or providing accessible crafting materials like easy to grip writing utensils or scissors and things like that. So there are lots of ways that are relatively not cost prohibitive that you can do to make just your library in general more accessible. But lastly, one of the most helpful things a library can do is to include information on your website about any accessibility features that the library has. I know that sort of the trend in library websites is to say that yes, we're accessible, but then it's helpful if you also say how you're accessible. So do you have ramps? Do you have an elevator? Do you have an accessible bathroom? So those are all things that someone with a disability might want to look up before they make the trip to your library. Because I have to say, if I'm in a wheelchair, I want to go to your website and see if I can get in the door before I drive out there. And it's so funny because I was just at a conference, an accessibility conference for state employees, where someone who is deaf said that was one of the main things that they noticed, was that there aren't a lot of library websites that list out what their accessibility features are. And she was specifically looking for libraries that had hearing loops. And I was like, yeah, I will make sure to mention that in all of my training. So here I am doing that.
I think that's really important. And I think I mentioned this to you before, Karen, but I was working in a library in New York, and the website which we did not control. It was like
Right.
a website that was like, because it was a large system, had the library listed as partially accessible. And I got a call from someone asking what that meant. And I didn't really know how to answer that question. But what I did know is that there were some floors that were accessible, but the third floor at the time was not accessible, and that's where the restroom was. So I told them that, and they were like, so it's not really accessible. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Right.
So again, I just from experience, like, I think it's so important to list, to have specific information about that.
Right. And also just so that people know that you're thinking about it, right? So that,
Yeah.
because the other piece of that is if, someone's looking at your website and you don't have that information, what are the chances that if I call that you'll know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So so it is helpful for people in that regard as well, so that they know that they can call and that you'll have some idea of how your building is accessible and some of the ways that it might not be. So again, that's just a really brief overview of that training that I mentioned, and I go into a lot more detail on some of those topics. So if you're interested, please check that out. So moving on to summer reading for the Able Library, we're doing a really sort of low-key summer reading program. And so I appreciate Jonathan mentioning at the beginning that, do what fits your library, because our library is relatively small. We have 3 staff members and our patrons are scattered all across the state. So it's really difficult for us to do in-person programming or anything like that. So our summer reading program will be for all ages, since the majority of our patrons are adults. We'll have summer reading bingo cards for anyone who wants to play, and the picture on the side is an example of our bingo card, although with Becky's sharing of, or no, not Becky, somebody shared, I think it was Dawn for CSLP, shared some cool bingo card ideas. So I might have to incorporate some of that into ours. So anyone who gets bingo will get, and also we don't have super cool prizes. So anyone who gets bingo will get a certificate from the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled in the Library of Congress letterhead that says that they participated in the NLS summer reading program. Patrons will also have the option to write book reviews as another way to participate in summer reading. We'll have an online review form. They can also email us or call in, or even snail mail us a review if that's how they want to do it. We'll also have summer reading lists available on our website that have the specific audiobook and large print numbers for people who want to search our catalog for them. We still have last year's up right now, but we'll be getting the new ones up in the next few weeks. But mostly what we'll be doing is promoting and encouraging our patrons to participate in the National Library Services Summer Reading Program this year. So last year was the first time that NLS ever provided a summer reading program for patrons, and we're excited to see how they refined it for this summer. I do know that it's going to run from June 24 to August 9, and it's open to all ages. So it's a little bit later than most public libraries. I know most public libraries try to start kind of right as school is ending. And they are using the CSLP theme. So if you are too, then your summer reading program should align pretty nicely with theirs. But if not, it's obviously not necessary to still, experience a good program. So they haven't shared exactly what programs they'll have available for patrons. Last year, they offered virtual story times. They had musical programs and author talks. They even had the Librarian of Congress do a story time for kids, which was really cool. And then the big change this year is that they're also planning to offer virtual escape rooms. So once they make all of that information available, we'll have it on the Able Library's website. So if you have patrons who are eligible for Able services and might benefit from virtual accessible programming, you can connect them with us so that we can get them registered for these programs. And one thing that I always like to mention is just because you refer someone to the Able Library doesn't mean that they can't also attend your programs if that's something that they want to do. This is just sort of to supplement what you're offering to your patrons. But if you have someone who says, oh, like my disability makes it so that I can't really come into the library, and if they're eligible for Able, then we can certainly get them connected with the NLS programming this year. So that's my really quick spiel. Here's our contact information. Our website is able.vermont.gov. You can email us at lib.ablelibrary@vermont.gov, or you can email me directly at karen.gravlin@vermont.gov. And our phone number is 802-636-0020, or we have a toll-free number, 800-479-1711. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you don't have them right now, that's okay. You have my email and my phone number. You can call or reach out to me at any point.
Thanks so much for joining us, Karen.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate all that information. If there's any questions for Karen or in general, I know there's been a lot of information that's come at you today. That was kind of the point, but I know it's a lot. Again, we are all available. Everybody who's put their emails in here if you want to reach out to any of us. We don't have a ton of time left today, and I want to stay on time, but I do want to. We'll take time for some questions. Oh, it looks like Valerie has a question. Go ahead, Valerie.
I just had a quick question for Karen. Karen, if we were wanting to connect someone with the Able Library, do we connect them with you directly, or is there a better place to send them?
So when you sign up, so when a patron signs up for service with the Able Library, we have an application on our website that they would need to fill out. And part of that application is there's a section for a certifying authority. So we would need someone like a librarian or some other professional to sign off and say this person does have a disability that qualifies them for service. So typically what happens, usually when public libraries refer patrons to us, they help the patron fill out the application, sign off on it, and send us the application, and then we reach out directly to the patron after that.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions for Karen or any lingering questions in general? We don't have a ton of time. We have put the link to our summer reading page up a bunch of times. We'll put it here again. Everything that you've seen today, there are a couple of things that aren't yet there, like information from Hunger Free Vermont. But we will put information up on that website and continue to update it. And it will also have everything. For participants, we'll share directly all the information that was shared today and the recording, but it will also be available on the summer reading page. Also want to put a plug in for the summer reading grant, which is available through the Department of Libraries. I am guessing that a lot of folks here have applied for that. I hope that you have. And if you haven't, you still can. And the application closes on the 17th. So you still have a few days to apply. And one of the things we did have a session specifically for the summer grant, but one things we always emphasize is that, we are, Lily is also here on the call with me today, and Lily and I are really the main ones processing all of these, doing the initial processing as we receive these grants. And then our new grants person, Mackenzie, will be doing the more the grant agreement and all of that. But the initial processing, it's us. So if you have a question, please reach out. It's very flexible. We want, again, another way to support you in doing what you're doing in a way that works for you. You can use those funds to purchase items specifically for some reading this year, including CSLP items. And you can also hire local performers. And so it's very, very flexible, and we want as many libraries to get it as possible. So please apply if you have not already. Does anyone have any other questions or anything that they'd like to share? I do also, again, I know there's been a lot of information. I'm going to be sending out information about Beanstack as we develop the challenge, the summer reading challenge for this year. We'll be going out, and there is also there's going to be some in-person meetups that are in the works. They're going to be towards the end of April. That will be focused on summer reading and will be open to anybody. So there's a couple. There's one scheduled in Heartland, working on doing one in Bennington. One is Aldrich Library here in Barrie is going to host one, and then if anybody wants to host one, like I don't have one yet scheduled for like Chittenden or Northeast Kingdom. So if anybody wants to host one, you can reach out to me too, because we're co-hosting them with the libraries that are there. So that will be opportunity for people to come share ideas with each other. I will have some goodies to give away, some books and a few CSLP things to give out to folks too. So we'll be sending out all that information very soon. Does anybody have any questions? Anything they want to share? Anything you're really stoked about for this summer? Oh, 106. That's great. Yeah. Last year, we 153 libraries received the summer grant, I think, which was the most that had ever received it. Our goal is to beat that. Again, we want to give this money out. So we hope that we get even more applications this year, and that we can get the grants out to every library. Yeah, the theme is great this year. Again, it's very fitting for Vermont. Let the adventure begins at your library. Very flexible. And as I mentioned up top, if you use the theme or you don't use the theme, you use the materials that were shared with you today. The whole point is that these are all things that you can use. Everything that we've shared is free to you, free to your patrons. So I encourage you to explore the materials that are available to you and find ways that they work for you in your library, but don't stress. That's the thing. It's like there's no reason to stress over it, to feel like you're not doing enough, because you're serving your community, and whatever you're able to do and however you're able to incorporate any of this, it's all positive, and you're on the right track, and you're doing it. So keep on keeping on. And thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, and we'll be sending out. It's Friday, so we'll be sending out stuff. Maybe by Monday, we'll get stuff sent out and stuff posted up on the website, and the recording and everything. Take a little bit of time, but we'll be sharing all that out very soon. So thank you for joining, and everybody have a good weekend.